You need to stop calling yourself a leader if you can't do this. What is it? You need to know the 3 to 5 numbers that every person on your team needs to perform by and that they need to live by and that you can hold them accountable to. Not the vibe check, not the how you doing, not the pat on the back and the consolation prize of, oh, you'll do better next time. No, know the numbers, hold your team accountable to the numbers, have something that you can definitively say, did this happen or did it not? If you can lead by the numbers, it's no longer a hope, it's a plan and it's action. If you can't do that, you're not leading the right way. Hope is not a leadership strategy. Lead with your numbers and then have your connection. Those two things together will make magic happen. All right, welcome back to the Monster Mindset, guys. Last week I covered the one-on-ones and how to do them, but there was a missing piece to that, the details about, the scorecard and what you should be tracking and how you should be working with your team on a scorecard and making sure that that one-on-one isn't just a hangout. It's not a pat on the back. It's not just a vibe. It's actually a scorecard that you cover. And so we covered that, how to do that whole meeting. But today is just kind of a deep dive on the scorecard. And again, by the way, if you haven't already, make sure you take a minute to like, subscribe, share. This is the only way the show grows, and I appreciate it if you do that. So what I want to talk about today is, what is the scorecard? What's it need to look like? What it is and what it isn't. And so we're going to go through, what's the 3 to 5, rule? What's a leading indicator versus a lagging indicator? And kind of like a scorecard hygiene, making sure that you're doing it the right way. And it's not just what's in the top of your head, but it's actually something that's written down that people can look at and learn from. And really, what's the difference between having 3 to 5 versus 15 different things you're measuring? There's a big difference between those things. You need to know what those differences are. So we'll start with the first thing being the 15 metric trap. The 15 metric trap is really a place that, managers get this misconception of the more they can measure and the more things that they can talk about with their reps, whether it's a sales rep or somebody that, maybe it's not a sales manager, but maybe a production manager, right? Or even an office manager, is there should only be 3 to 5 things that you can measure performance on that are the true indications of that person being successful or not. And they should be measurable things. If you're trying to measure 15 different things, you might as well not be measuring anything at all because nobody knows what the true goal is. And as a leader, that's your job to understand what are the most important things that need to happen here and how can I measure them quantitatively and put them on paper or put them in the front of the dashboard on our CRM or someplace where it's really obvious to everyone that's involved what's happening here. And if you're trying to read 15 of them, you're just going to get lost in the sauce. There's nothing that's going to come of good of that. It's just going to be like white noise. You don't hear anything at all. But if you know that there's 3, 3 is kind of ideal, maximum of 5 things that you measure and that people know they're being measured on, then they're going to pay close attention to those things. And they're going to be important. They're going to be important to your employee. They're going to be important to you as a leader. And if you're an employee and you're listening to this, that's okay. Know what your metrics are. Know what are the 3 to 5 things that are going to drive the best results for you in the organization that you're in. And if you can get those things dialed in, then the rest of the flow, the other 10 or 12 things that are out there, those will fall in line as long as you have the right 3 to 5 that are in front of you all the time. And so, the scorecard isn't a to-do list. It's not just a list of things to do. It's the measurement. It's not a project tracker. It's not, a goal card. It's here's what we are measuring. Here's specifically the numbers that we can put to this. And it gives you that clear method of measuring. Is this person living up to their job description? Are they living up to their daily obligations in the work that they do? Are they performing above what other people are performing or below or at expectation? And those are the things that are important to you if you're going to try to lead, is understanding clearly what the minimum expectation is And I recommend setting the standard high because people tend to live up to your expectations, right? If you have a minimum standard that's low, well, people are going to live up to that, and you're going to have a low average from everybody. But if you have, kind of a mid-high, your top performers are always going to run anyway, right? If you got kind of a mid-high for everybody else, at least you've got some kind of, something that's above what you would consider as average maybe for the industry or the job that you're doing. And your organization will thrive because you measure something, it's quantifiable, it's something that is clearly like publishable, aka it's written down, it's on that CRM, it's someplace that's very clear for everybody to see, to measure. And if it didn't happen, through your CRM or through the method of measurement that you have, then it just didn't happen at all. Let that sink in for a second. If it didn't happen in a measurable way, it didn't happen at all if you're a decent leader. Why? Why that hard line on that? Because I've learned from years of experience that people will come up with all kinds of excuses. They'll talk about, if they're in sales, the be back bus, the guy that's like, oh, I'm going to get him, I'll be back, right? Those be backs never happen unless it's like something that you're measuring and that you're holding your people accountable to. They don't leave it to chance for the customer to come back. They go out there and they get them again if they need to. Taking those steps to make sure that the deal happens so that it shows up on the measurements is what you're going to get out of having clear measurables. If it's production, maybe it's your backlog time of getting things done, or your quality reviews from your customers, or your, maybe there's, something that's measurable for like how you're cleaning up a job, right? There's a lot of different measurables that you can get out there and make happen. And you need to know what those things are. If you don't, it's you that's dropping the ball here. And if they're not in a place where you can find them and your employee can find them basically at a moment's notice, then you've missed the mark. And not only find them at a moment's notice, but you should know them off the top of your head, right? There should be few enough of them, and you should be paying close enough attention to them on a daily basis that you barely even have to pull them up because you know the numbers, because there's enough of them to keep the person that you're leading like dialed in, but there's not so many of them that you basically can't memorize them, right? If there's a number that you can memorize based on each person's performance because you know where they land, that's the sweet spot. You know what you're doing. You know what you're measuring. You know what your expected outcomes are. Do that, you're going to win. When it comes right down to it, a job description without a scorecard is a hope. A scorecard without a job description is just a checklist. You understand the person's job, what their job description is, and you have the scorecard with it. That's where the magic happens. That's where things become a standard that you live by. All right, so to sum that up, really what it comes down to is if you can't write it down, you can't measure it. If you can't measure it, you can't lead your team. So what are you measuring, right? I've kind of talked about the concepts. Now let's talk about a little bit more of the specifics of that. You got leading indicators and lagging indicators. I'm going to use sales as an example. A leading indicator is going to be, how many sit-down presentations did you have? Or how many doors did you knock? How many inspections did you do? How many pitches did you make, right? These are great leading indicators. And your lagging indicator is going to be how many deals closed, how many deals got, approved, what was the average dollar amount, right? Those are lagging indicators. And the magic happens here when you understand that you need to measure both, but measure in the right ratio. It should be roughly 2 leading indicators to 1 lagging indicator in general, right? Because the leading indicator is going to predict the future for you. The lead is the prevention to the sickness, and the sickness being failure to produce. Lead with the leading indicators. Lagging indicators, those are the autopsy, right? If you lead with those leading indicators, you're starting at a place where it's like, hey, I'm going to prevent the sickness. I'm going to prevent the problem. I'm going to prevent the failure because I'm measuring these leading indicators on a daily basis. I know what my numbers are. on a daily basis for your whole team as an aggregated number. And then also you're reviewing them for each individual so that you can make those quick call outs and like get them dialed in. You know, if somebody missed a day, they didn't do well, you can call them or send them a Slack or shoot them a text message and say, hey, yesterday you missed the mark. In our case, we have a daily sales meeting, and you want to lead with these indications of like, hey, you missed the mark yesterday. You got some ground to make up today to stay on pace. When this is taking it clear back to the deep dive one-on-one, and you pair that with, I know your goals. I know you want to buy that house, buy that car, take the family on vacation, do whatever it is that you're wanting to do. And so you're covering those leading indicators and say your failure to meet the need of the prospecting activity of the activity that it gives us the outcome. If we know our numbers, failing to do that is going to fail you, your family, this company, me as your leader in the long run. And that's what you don't want to do. So make sure you nail down those leading indicators. The lagging indicators, how many deals closed, you know, what was the average dollar amount per deal? Those are great. Those are things that you can coach on and teach on, and they are something that are important. But your leading indicator on the daily is where the money's at. That's where you can change the game with your team. And so make sure you know those leading indicators. Keep it at about 2 to 1. If you're only showing up and you're saying, well, you know, Joe, you only managed to close X number of dollars this month or so far this month, and that's the only thing you're measuring, can you see how you're missing the mark, right? But if Joe shows up and you're like, hey, man, you knocked on, you know, you talked to 40 potential customers yesterday or 40 prospects, you did 5 inspections, you had 3 sit-downs, and you got 2 out of 3 to sign, those are leading, or those first few things there are what's going to drive the actual signing behavior. And they'll average out, or at the very least, they'll indicate where your rep is failing, because you'll know what you need to coach on. If they got out and talked to plenty of people, either knocking doors or with set appointments or whatever it is, if they got out and talked to plenty of people, maybe there's referrals. If they had the conversations, they've had the opportunities. If they have the opportunities but they're unable to convert, you've got something clear to coach on. If they didn't give themselves enough opportunities, you've got something clear to coach on, something that will change the game on the back end. And then once you're looking at the lagging indicators, there's something you can, there's things you can coach on there as well. Your average sale is less than the company average, or less than the team average, or less than my expectation for you. And you can coach on that as well. But comes right down to it again. When you're doing those one-on-ones, you need to know what those KPIs are, the key performance indicators. It needs to be a 2 to 1 a 2 to 1 ratio of leading indicators for lagging indicators, and everybody should know those cold. Your reps should know them before they even walk in, so that they know what they're going to be looking at. You should know them before they walk into that one-on-one. You should have these numbers down cold. And if and then you review the last week's video of how to do a one-on-one, the placement of where to cover this stuff is very clear in there. And having these things down cold will change the game for you. It changes the conversation, and you get results out of your team. So what's the scorecard hygiene kind of look like? And what I mean by scorecard hygiene is, where is it? When is it? How is it being used? Where it is and when it is should be pretty simple for you. It should be something that you can clearly pull percentages, numbers from whatever software you're using. If you don't have software set up for that, you need to have software set up for that. Those leading and lagging indicators should show up front and center on a dashboard or on a report that everybody can see and pull very, very easily. And the scorecard hygiene needs to show, here's my top 3, 4, or 5 things that I measure. 3 of them, if there's 5, should at least be leading indicators, probably 4. 1 or 2 lagging indicators, and you've got a system that you can work with. The scorecard hygiene for us is going to show up every single day at the sales meeting. My team, my expectation, my team is when they have a team meeting, they're going to come in every morning for that team meeting, and they're going to go through everybody's scorecards real quick and talk about what happened by the numbers the day before. Not a long story about how, their dog died and their grandma got cancer and whatever else like that, but what happened in their work yesterday. And did they meet this standard of expectation or did they not? Did they meet the prior day's commit or did they not? And what does the leading indicators tell you and what do the lagging indicators tell you right there, right then, right in front of everyone? And then you're going to dive into it even harder in the one-on-one. You're going to get right into it and you're going to say, hey, listen, we need to work on this. What are we going to do differently? These are the indicators. This is what I'm seeing. I don't care about your story. What I care about is what I see right here in front of me, because that tells the real story. Know the real story. Know the leading indicators. Know the lagging indicators. Cover them as a group in your daily meeting. Make it fast. Per person, make it real fast, because you got a bunch of people probably sitting there listening. Short and sweet. Call out the maybe the highest performers. Call out the people who were the lowest performers, and let the rest of them ride. Be like, everybody else, you did good. You two guys, hey, you need to pick up the pace today. You guys had a killer day. Give me a high five, right? Have some fun with it. Have some fun with your team. And then in the one-on-one, 30-minute weekly one-on-one, you're going to get down into the nitty-gritty of, doing that autopsy on what's happened so far, or what's happened in the prior 5 days or whatever. And you're going to get right into it and reset the expectation and hold them accountable to meeting the expectation or exceeding it, or congratulate them and move past it quickly if they're doing a great job of it and just spend more time connecting. If they're beating everything on leading and lagging indicators, if they're a high performer, you're going to touch on it. You're going to make sure that they know that you are seeing it, that you're paying attention to it, and then you're going to move right into connecting with them and how you can help them. You want to let your winners, let the thoroughbreds run, right? You don't teach a horse to run. You may have somebody that's, a little tiny guy in their back saying, hey, keep running, buddy. Give a little kick in the ribs every now and then. But you want to let your thoroughbreds run, and mostly you just want to have a great relationship with them. The biggest thing about that is that you also want to protect them from the low performers. And the way you protect your team from the low performers is by making sure you don't have any, by keeping them accountable every day and in their weekly one-on-ones. And if they're failing, you got to figure out another option. That's going to come up in, I think, maybe the next episode we're going to be talking about that. What to do with people, reseat them or get rid of them or, change where they're at on the scoreboard. So what did you just learn? This is a kind of a short and sweet episode, but really understand that 15 metrics is the same as 0. You might as well not keep track of anything if you're going to try to keep track of 15, because nobody's going to pay attention to the ones that matter. Having a scorecard and having your scorecard hygiene up where people can see it, where your team can see it, where they see it every day, where it's in front of their face, where you know what it is, and it's few enough numbers that you have it memorized and it's right in your face and right in their face all the time. That's the right place for it. It's not a vibe. It's not a to-do list. It's not a conversation just, hey, how you doing? It's the numbers. You're running the numbers and you're paying close attention to them. Then the 3 to 5 sweet spot. Like I say, I don't don't go over 5. Like, do what you got to do to narrow it down to 5. And if you really think about all the things you measure, there's probably only 3, 4, or 5 of them that actually matter, that actually make a difference. Narrow those down to what truly makes a difference for you and the people that you're leading, no matter what role they're in. You could be somebody that's doing, payroll. How many payroll errors were there? How many payroll checks did we process? Were they processed on time? Right? There's indicators for everyone. It doesn't matter what you're doing if you're paying attention as a leader. So if you can't do that, end the conversation. Don't even bother to have it, right? Have those 3 to 5, have the conversation. If you're not doing that, don't even bother. Skip the one-on-one, cancel it. If you're not ready to do that, spend the time instead getting ready so you can do it in the future. The lock-in here is make sure you're doing those weekly one-on-ones. Make sure you've got your team set up to do those weekly one-on-ones. Make sure they know where to find those KPIs, those 3 to 5 things that drive the behavior that you want on your team. Make sure that it's readily available to them and readily available to you at all times. And something that where you can pull the numbers automatically. You don't want to have to try to add them up by hand. You don't want to rely on what they're telling you. It needs to be something that you can see, that you can read, that's tracked automatically. And spend a week preparing that if it's not set up. Instead of having one-on-ones, instead of having team meetings, just push them off for a week and get ready to actually be able to track these things on an ongoing basis, and that will change the game for your team. So basically what it boils down to is your deep dive, is going to earn the trust. It's going to earn belief. The weekly cadence of a one-on-one with your guys is going to keep them highly accountable. Knowing the numbers is what really is going to keep them accountable. So do your deep dive, know your team, do your weekly one-on-ones, do your call-outs during your team meetings, and if you run that cadence, you're going to see that you get a whole different result from your team. You can be the mom by connecting, but be the dad by having accountability. Pair those two together, and your team's going to win.